Hello everyone, welcome to today's IELTS class. I am Adrian, your teacher today, broadcasting to you live from beautiful West Coast, Canada, British Columbia, on Vancouver Island. It is 10 o'clock in the morning, my time. The day's just starting. Hi everyone who's joining. Hi Monica, Raya, Mohit, Mohammed, Radike. Hi, everyone. Before I begin, please let me know that you can hear me okay and that you can see the board. Can everybody hear me okay? Can everybody see me okay? My leg is healing, hike slowly. I still have a fair bit of pain because when I broke it, I twisted a lot of muscles and ligaments. So it's quite painful, but thank you for asking. It's a good thing we have painkillers, definitely. All right, everything's great. Lots of people joining. Fun, fun, fun. All right, so today's lesson is IELTS reading. I'm going to give you an example and strategy. We will have audio for the reading as well with a native British English speaker. As you can hear, you can probably guess that my accent is West Coast North American accent. But the audio will be British accent. The materials are coming from our website at www.aehelp.com. That's academicenglishhelp.com. There are 6 IELTS practice exams there, a full interactive course, 40 high-definition lesson videos for all parts of the IELTS. You can practice your speaking, you can practice your writing, get correction feedback. So lots of help for IELTS on our website. Make sure you join us there to increase your scores for your next exam. Also, use Super Chat to get answers for sure, okay? There are approximately anywhere from 120 to 200 students watching this live stream, so sometimes the chat moves very quickly. If you have an important question, please use Super Chat. It's the button beside the emoji. You donate $1, $2, $5, $10, and then you can get your answers recognized and answered by me easily. Because your answers become large and green or red and stay on the screen for me. Some countries don't have it. Don't worry about it. I will try to answer as many questions as I can. All right, so again, IELTS reading example strategies. It's coming from our website, which is aehelp.com. This is what our website looks like on your computer. When you're a student with us, you simply just log in with your email and your password. And once you're logged in, then you have access to all of the materials, including our 6 practice exams. So today we are looking at academic reading. For those of you who are studying general IELTS, it's still good for you to stay and watch. If you can do a good job in academic reading, you can definitely do a good job in general IELTS reading. By the way, we do have general IELTS help as well at www.gieltshelp.com. All right, guys, so let's cut right into this. So we get to the reading section. This is our book here, and it says reading passage 1. You should spend about 20 minutes on questions 1 to 13 and reading the passage. And then it gives you the title and it gives you a picture. If you get a picture with your reading passage, make sure you look at it. It's very important to look at the picture, read the title, know what you're going to be reading about. Okay, just a quick review question. How much time should you spend reading the passage, guys? So how much time should you spend to read the passage when you get to the reading section? And it should be the same for each reading passage. 10 minutes, guys. 10 minutes. 10 to 12 minutes to read the passage, and then 8 to 10 minutes to answer the questions, okay? So you should spend no more than 10 to 12 minutes for each passage. Leave 8 to 10 minutes to answer questions. Now, of course, as you may or may not know, IELTS reading has 3 passages. And usually the way that the test is designed is that the topics become more and more difficult for each passage. So ideally, passage 1 is the easiest, passage 2 is more difficult, and passage 3 is the most difficult. Do you know how they do that? Do you know how they pick the topic for passage 1 versus passage 3 to make it a little bit easier? And I want to say usually, because it's not always going to be easier for everyone. So passage 1 is usually easier for most students because the topic is concrete. Okay, it's physical, such as pyramids. Okay, so one way that IELTS will often make passage 1 in academic a little bit easier than passage 3 is that it will be about a physical or concrete topic, something that you can see, that you can measure, and that most of us know about. Yeah, concrete here means it's a physical topic, such as pyramids. Okay. So something that's easy to see, easy to understand. And then often, by the time you get to passage 3, it's an abstract topic. So often, passage 3 will be an abstract topic. For example, childhood education or art. Okay, so it'll be something that's a little bit more difficult to understand, and you need a deeper understanding of English. Psychology is a common one, or linguistics. So passage 3 is something that you can't touch or you can't see as easily, and these types of topics are usually a little bit more difficult to comprehend when you're reading it, not just as an ESL student, but even as a native speaker. So this is true for native speakers as well. All right, so keep that in mind. Passage 1 is usually easier, passage 3 is usually most difficult, but this is not always true. So it's not true that passage 2 or 3 is more difficult than passage 1 for all people, because the difficulty also depends on the experience of the student. Okay, so ideally, the difficulty is generalized. It's true for most people, but it's not true for all people. There are exceptions. So sometimes the situation is that the student knows the topic of passage 2 or 3 more than passage 1 just because they have more life experience. So if you're a psychology student, and you're learning psychology in university or college, then maybe it will be better for you to see a passage about psychology than about pyramids, right? Maybe you never saw much information about pyramids or never read books or watched movies about pyramids, so you don't know much about pyramids. Maybe psychology is a better topic. So what does that mean? So what should your first step be when you get to the reading section? Therefore, your first step when you get to the reading section should be to what? So what should you do first, guys? So Harveer, Arsanali, I can see you guys are commenting. That's great. What do you guys think? What should be the first step when you get to the reading passage? Not skimming and scanning. Please, guys, don't skim and scan. Those are not good skills for getting over 6. It's too much paraphrasing in IELTS. Don't take rest. So you get to the reading passage. You will visualize. You will read the heading. You're way, way ahead, Buhara, with the key words. But based on what I just told you, so I said to you that sometimes it's not true for all people that passage 2 or 3 is more difficult. So what should you do? What should you do? If you're not sure that passage 2 or 3 will be more difficult for you than passage 1, what should you do? Yeah, choose the easiest one for you. That's right, Raya. So look at the topic of all 3 passages and choose the one that you think, hey, this is the most familiar for me. This is the one I have the most experience with. So begin with the passage that you feel will be the easiest topic for you. You should try to do all 3 of them anyway. So begin with the one that you feel, hey, I know more about this. I've learned about this in school. I've seen a movie on this recently. So therefore, your first step when you get to the reading section should be to look at the topic of all 3 passages and begin with the one that is most familiar for you. So, and for you, I mean for you, because for someone else it might be something different. So begin with the one that's the most easy appearing for you, okay? You do not have to read the passages in order. You can read passage 3 first, passage 2 next, and passage 1 last. So usually number 1 is the easiest, but if you think 2 or 3 is easier for you, pick those ones. Okay, so you picked the easy passage, and you decided that that's the one you're going to start with. In our case, it is the London Underground. So what should you do? You have your reading passage picked out. You're looking at the title. You're looking at the picture. What do you need to do? So what do you need to do in the very, very beginning? Not skim through the passage. Skim reading, guys, is usually a waste of time. If you're trying to get a 6.5 or more on IELTS, skim reading is going to be a waste of time because you need to read the passage anyway. So you read the heading, the London Underground, and you look at the picture. Okay, so you're now looking at the title and the picture. What do? You visualize. Okay, so Hike, you're right, you visualize. What do you see? So what do you see, Hike, when you visualize the title and the picture in this case? So in our case, the topic is the London Underground. So the question is, what do you see? Okay. What do you guys see? So you see, Asanali says a train. I can't read Cyrillic, guys, so I'm sorry if you're from Russia or from Slavic nation, I can't read your name unless it's in English, but you're right. So you see a train, you see a red train. Okay, you see a tube, you see an underground train station. Thank you, Ankit, for your super chat donation. That's awesome. I appreciate that. So Ankit just did a super chat, which is great. Thank you for sponsoring, Ankit. Those kinds of sponsorships are really appreciated. They help to keep these live lessons going. Thank you so much. All right, so you see a subway. Good, Saeed. Subway is a synonym for underground. In British English, they say underground or tube. In North American English, we say subway. So right side. So what do you see? When you see a subway, what do you actually see? Beside the train, the station, you see people waiting. Okay, and remember when you visualize, you should see yourself. So in this case, see yourself waiting for a train in a crowded subway. Okay. So you're visualizing. What's your simultaneous step, or what's the next step along with visualizing? What should you do? PS Studio, how can you send money? You can send money in two ways. One is by clicking the super chat beside the emoji, the smiley face, if you have that in your country. And then the other way, of course, is you can purchase our courses, which are on our website at aehelp.com. So thanks for that question. Don't read the questions yet, Rajib. So Rajib says, read the questions next. Don't read the questions yet. There's something that you can do before you start reading the questions. What should you do before you read the questions? So what do you do before you read the questions? And you don't read all the questions. We talked about that before. So before you look at the questions, you need to do what? And some of you who are following these lessons regularly should be able to figure this out. Okay, this is one of the most important skills for a high score on the IELTS. Okay, Sai says, analyze the passage. Nadia, very good. That's what I was looking for, is critical thinking. So before you look at the questions, you need to apply critical thinking to the topic. Okay, what does that mean, guys? What does it mean to apply critical thinking to the topic? And this will really help you to understand the passage more and get more answers correct. So when we say critical thinking, we mean analyze. It's a type of analyzing, Fatime, so you're right. Yep, Harvir, Kaur, visualizing, critical thinking, that's exactly what you need to do. So you need to ask what, why, how. Exactly. And this reading passage is a perfect example of how powerful this skill is. So ask what, why, and how about the topic. So in this example, we would ask, what is the subway? So anybody, what is a subway? What is the subway? And of course, you're doing this very quickly in your mind. So when you get to the reading section, you have to do this very quickly in your head. So try to be very clear with your answer. It's an underground transportation system. Okay, so what is a subway? It's an underground mass transportation system. Hopefully you can get this answer. And Ankit, I think you're jumping ahead here to the next question, but those are some good answers. It's cheap, comfortable, it's time saver for the public. Why is it underground? That's the one part that you're missing. So you're right. The next question we're answering is, why do we have subway systems? And there's a very clear answer here, and this will really help you understand the passage more, okay? So it's an effective use of space, Utsav. Where? Be specific. Where is it an effective use of space? It's cheap, it's quick, it's an effective use of space, it's fast, it moves a lot of people. Where? Where do we see subways? Can we find subways in, there we go, Utsav, big cities, right? Subways are generally only found in large cities. Buses, trains, and other types of mass transport we can find in medium-sized cities or even smaller cities, but only massive, large metropolitan cities have subway systems. That's right. That's an important part of this answer. So why do we have subways? We have subways to enable cheap mass transit of people in metropolitan areas by avoiding surface traffic. Okay, and that's probably the answer for the how, but that's okay. I'll leave it there for now. Okay, and then of course our last question is, how does it work? And this is important because, as you can imagine, the passage will talk about this. So if you can predict this, it will help you. So again, why do we have subways? We have subways to enable cheap mass transit of people in metropolitan areas. Okay, how does the subway work? So how does the subway work? It avoids, so the subway, one of you said this, Abhik says it, to avoid traffic. The subway avoids traffic by moving underground. Yeah, absolutely. What else is a subway able to do that roads can't do as much? It reduces traffic, absolutely. What else can a subway do that roads are not able to do? So it avoids it's a similar for trains. So subway avoids traffic by moving underground as well. It follows a strict schedule and is in perpetual motion, right? So it's perpetual motion means continuous motion. Now I know it stops at the subway stops, but it's not like a car. It doesn't have to stop at all these stop signs. It doesn't have to stop at all the red lights. So it's faster travel because it's basically just stopping to pick up people, and that's it. It's just going, moving, moving, moving. Okay? So great. Now we have an idea of what a subway is, why we have it, and how it works. So again, remember the two important points before you look at the questions is you visualize, and then of course you apply critical thinking. Okay, so those are two steps that you need to do before you look at the questions. The next step, of course, is you look at the questions. And this is before you read, okay? So next step, look at the questions. And this is part of that 8-10 minutes question answering time. Here you're not answering yet, you're just looking at them to get an idea of what you will do. So you have the questions in the stream description, guys, okay? The stream description has the questions for you. So the stream description has the questions for you for the passage that we're going to practice here. Okay, so we look at those questions, just a moment. Here we go. Okay, so the first set of questions is yes, no, not given. Should I read these before the passage? So first set of questions, yes, no, not given. Should I read them before the passage? And I know a lot of you have trouble with the yes, no, not given, so I will show you some good strategies with this. Okay, Saeed says yes, Ustav says no, Manushi says no, a lot of you are saying no, most of you are saying no, or more of you are saying no than yes. And that's the right answer. No, you do not read yes, no, not given questions. Why not, guys? Why do you not read yes, no, not given questions before the passage? Why not? No is the correct answer. Why do we not read it? It's confusing. That's right, Manushi. It's a waste of time because it's confusing with wrong information and wrong ideas. Yeah, that's right. Guys, girls, remember, the human brain is not linear. It's not a computer. So it doesn't remember the order of information that well. This is why we have Google Calendar and schedules and different kinds of notebooks to kind of keep our linear time organized, because we can't do it well with our brain, okay? So remember that the human thought or brain is not a linear machine. So it cannot remember what information it sees when. Therefore, do not read questions that are confusing, contain false or missing or not given information in the passage. Okay? So the human brain is not a linear machine. That means that if you read information in true, false, not given, which is false or not given, and then you read the passage, when you're finished, you may get confused and think that you actually read it in the passage when you didn't. So don't do that, okay? So don't read information in questions that are not in the passage or that are false. So we don't read this yes, no, not given question. Okay, the next one, it's a summary completion. So it summarizes the passage. Choose one word only. That's important to pay attention to, that instruction. Choose one word only from the passage for each answer. Do we read this one? So should I read this summary completion type question? What do you guys think? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Yes, we talked about this. We did a different one, Shafiq, but yes, we absolutely want to read this one. This is a very good question to read, not just skim read, but actually read before the passage, because it summarizes the information from the whole passage. So it's not even paragraph completion, it's summary completion, which means it's coming from a big part of the passage. So let's read this one. The growth of the London Underground. The first line of the Underground was constructed in 1863, and over the next decades, additional lines would increase the breadth of the system's reach. By the start of World War I, the central part of London was completely covered. Through the mid-20th century, the focus was on making the system available to those living in the city. Before 1933, there were many governing bodies. These were blank companies with their own contracts and land. Conversely, management of the tube today is public, looked after by the transport something. Okay, so that's the summary. It gives you some more idea about what the passage will be about. Okay, and then for questions 10 to 13, it says complete each sentence with the correct ending. Should we read this type of question? So sentence completion question. This is called a sentence completion question, where you need to match the correct ending here with the, so these are the endings. You need to match these with the correct numbers. Should I read this one before the passage? It's a trick question, guys, girls, trick question. Okay, a lot of yeses, a lot of no's, a lot of okays, a lot of, and then we have Abhik saying maybe yes. Okay, yeah, maybe yes is a clever answer. So in this type of situation, just like with multiple choice, read the question, because this is in the passage. So London's core is, this will be in the passage somewhere, or a paraphrase will be in the passage somewhere. Beck's key insight was, this will be in the passage somewhere. So these parts, the first half of the sentence, is coming from the passage, okay? Just like with multiple choice, the question is coming from the passage. So you can read these, but don't read the options. Okay, the options might confuse you because some of this information will not be given in the passage, or it will be wrong. So do not read the options. Okay, so let me make a note of this for you. So these are kind of interesting questions to look at. So for sentence completion and multiple choice questions, read the question but not the answers. Okay, so for sentence completion, multiple choice questions, read the question but not the answers. Okay. All right, so now that we saw all this, let's go back and let's read the actual passage. Okay, and as I mentioned, I will play audio for this. Again, on our website, this is very different from a lot of other IELTS companies. We are maybe the only company, IELTS company in the world that gives you audio for the reading sections as well. So again, guys, girls, if you want to get some of the best IELTS materials in the world, definitely join us at aehelp.com. We have 6 full practice exams there, for the academic IELTS. We have another 6 for the general IELTS. We're one of the only companies in the world that actually recorded and includes British audio for the reading. So you can read with the British reader and get a feeling of how you should be reading. We think that's very important, so we included that with our materials. Okay, and I will play that for you now as we read.
The London Underground. One of the most notable aspects of London, the Underground, or Tube, is also one of the most utilised by locals and visitors alike. Over 1.3 billion passengers use the London Underground every year. If you have ever visited the city, it is very likely that you have been told to mind the gap. In continuous operation for over 150 years, the London Underground began as just one line run by a private corporation. Today, the system is publicly owned and is comprised of 11 separate lines. The growth and development of the Underground has mirrored London's development as, first, an industrial powerhouse, and second, a financial and tourism centre. Great Britain was the epicentre of the Industrial Revolution in the 18th and 19th centuries. Cities like Glasgow, Birmingham and London gave birth to inventions such as the steam engine, which revolutionized transportation and travel. People began to flock to these cities for jobs, opportunity and prosperity. London was the destination of choice for many of these people. In 1800, at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, the population of London was less than 1 million people. By 1900, that number would balloon to over 6.5 million people. There were many factors which contributed to this growth, not least of which was improved sanitation. But one factor in particular allowed for the mobility of those people across the ever-expanding city, the construction and development of the London Underground. The first line was constructed in 1863. Over the next 50 years, many more lines would be added, resulting in the virtual blanketing of central London by the start of the First World War. Through the interwar period and mid-20th century, the focus for the subway developers was extending the network to the suburbs of London, where an increasing number of Londoners were now residing. Interestingly, It wasn't until 1933 that the developers of the network unified into a single governing body. Until that time, there were a host of private companies competing for contracts, land, and customers. Today, the London Underground is owned and operated by the London Transport Authority, Transport for London. Perhaps the most recognisable symbol of the London Underground is the tube map, designed in 1931 by Underground employee Harry Beck. With its many colourful lines and intricate details, the tube map is not only useful, but aesthetically pleasing as well. Indeed, a print copy of the tube map is a popular souvenir for tourists to put on their walls back home. That it is artful is, however, only part of its appeal. The tube map is incredibly useful. Just a moment spent looking at the map can help you determine how to get from any point in London to any other point. Beck was able to accomplish this by realizing that the map did not need to exactly match the reality of the tube geography. For instance, a line may go through all sorts of turns through its route, yet on the map it is represented as a straight line. This simplification worried the Underground management in 1931, but soon enough the tube map became a sensation, both for its usefulness and its elegant design. Today, the tube is used more than ever, and London continues to grow. With the centre of London becoming a financial hub over the past 50 years, more and more jobs have been created in the English capital. While this has in some sense hollowed out the core of London, it has also highlighted the need for more lines to service the ever-increasing number of London's suburbs. Additionally, tourism to London has never been higher. Well over 30 million people visited the city in 2015, each of whom, undoubtedly at some point, used the venerable London Underground.
Okay, so that is the passage, and that reading is actually faster than you need to read. So that's a comfortable pace for a native English speaker. That reading, I believe, is only about 6 or 7 minutes. So you can actually read even slower than that by 3 minutes, okay? So you should have enough time to read a passage in 10 minutes. The question is for you. What did you read about here? So what was this passage about? What did it cover? So what did this passage cover? What information did it cover? Yeah, you can speed up the audio, Saeed, so there's a way to do that, absolutely. It's about the history of the London subway, sure. What does it tell us about the history of the London subway? It talks about its role today as well, Hike. That's right, absolutely. So it talks about the history of the subway, talks about the role that it played in the past and present. There's also a full paragraph about another piece of information. How it came into being, its users, Jamshid, absolutely. Yes, that's an important one, Abhik. Absolutely. The contribution to London, how it supported London's growth. Ildar, very good. Yes, there's a full paragraph in there about the map of the London Underground, who designed it, how they designed it, why they designed it, and so on. All right, now if you practice enough at home, you should be able to answer most of the questions without having to look at the passage. So let's try to do that now. So let's go to the yes, no, not given questions. Okay, so the first question is, over 1 million people, maybe I can zoom in a bit more for you guys here. So over 1 million passengers use the tube each year. What is the strategy for solving this question? And you guys are right. The answer is yes. So Saeed, Donald, Jamshid, yes, you guys are right. The answer is yes, yes, absolutely. It's more than a million. So More than 1 million people use it, which is absolutely true. So how do we solve this question? True, false, not given. What's the strategy? I know some of you watch these classes regularly, and I gave you this strategy before. So I want to check and make sure that you remember this. So what's the strategy for getting a yes answer? You don't have to find it. You don't have to look for keywords. There's a much easier way. Asanali, yeah, ask a question. What's the question? Ask if it's important. Arab 1, yeah, absolutely. So here the question is it important to know how many people use the tube each year? Yes, it's important. And then what do you ask after? So after you discover that this is an important one for the passage, then you can ask, is it true, right? So again, just a quick refresher. So for yes, no, not given, ask, is it important for the passage topic? If the answer is yes, if yes, then it must be yes or no. Okay, definitely not given, because it will be given if it's important for the passage. And then the second question is it true? And in this case, it's true, because we know that more than 1 million passengers use it. So here it's yes. So therefore, the answer is yes. It's like computer science. It's a function. We're basically applying a function to the yes, no, not given, or true, false, not given question. Okay? So, yes, it said 1.3 billion, not 1 million, Utsav, but that's more than 1 million. 1.3 billion is more than 1 million people. Okay? So, all right. So, number 1 is definitely true. You don't need to go back and look for this answer. Okay? Number 2, the tube is privately owned. Okay, so is it important to know who owns the underground, the subway? Is it important to know who owns the London Underground? Yes, it is, guys. It is. It's an important question. Who owns it? Who owns and operates it? Yeah. So a lot of you are getting a wrong answer here. So the question here is it important to know who owns and operates the London Tube? This is the exact question you need to ask yourself here if you have this on the IELTS. And the answer here should be yes, absolutely, it's important. Okay? And then the second question then, is it true that the London Tube is privately owned? Okay, and you have to pay attention to the tense. So is it true that the tube is privately owned? And Saud, you're right. The answer here is no. It tells us that at the end of the passage because it says that it's publicly owned today. So it's a publicly owned company. So the correct answer for number 2 is no. Okay? The statement contradicts what the author says. Okay, number 3. The steam engine was invented in London. Is it important to know where the steam engine was invented for this passage? No, absolutely not. This passage is not about the steam engine. It's about the London Underground. And as you can guess, they're probably not using steam underground. Just imagine if you filled a subway full of steam. That would definitely not function. So even if you just visualize it, it's quite funny to imagine a steam engine running underground. I would definitely not want to be in a subway station that's using a steam engine. Okay, so this one is not given. All right, guys, it's a not given. It's not important for the topic, Subways do not use steam engines, so it's not given. Yes, absolutely, Ildar. It would be a sauna. It would be a it would be a Turkish bath in the subway station. Okay, number 4. So let's go past that one. So pay attention. Some of these are quite easy if you're visualizing and thinking critically. London grew by a factor of 6 from 1800 to 1900. So is the growth of London an important question for this? Is the growth of London an important question for this topic? Yes, absolutely, guys, because the subway is a solution to a growing city. So again, use critical thinking. A subway is a solution to a growing city. So talking about how fast London is growing when we're talking about the London Underground is very important. Okay? It's definitely related. Yes, Abhik, that's a good way to think about it. Is it related? So when I say, is it important, another way that you can think about it, Abhik wrote this in the chat, and he's absolutely right, is it related? That's another great way to think about it. Yes, growth of a city is definitely related to a subway. Is it true that London grew 6 times bigger in 18 to 1900? So is this true without looking at the passage? So you do not have to look at the passage. Is it true? Yes, absolutely. Sure it is. You can actually figure out that this should be true. How can we figure out that this should be true, that London grew 6 times? Without looking at the passage, so you do not need to look at the passage. How can you figure out that it's probably true that London grew this much? Yes, Nada, very good. There's some good critical thinking by Nada. Look at the years. 18 to 1900 is the height of the Industrial Revolution. Absolutely, Arab One. There you go. So if you know your history, you know that in the 1800s, Industrial Revolution was booming and cities were growing extremely fast. So growing 6 times between 18 to 1900 is a very realistic number for London, okay? So that's how you know. So notice, guys, that a lot of people do waste time skim reading and scanning for yes, no, not given. But so far, we have been able to answer 4 out of 5 questions without looking at the passage. So in true, false, not given, or yes, no, not given, you can answer most of the questions without looking at the passage. But you need to practice at home. Okay, number 5, improved sanitation was the least important factor in London's growth. So number 5, improved sanitation was the least important factor in London's growth. Is improved sanitation an important point in this passage? Nimra, absolutely not true. This seems easy because we're using the right strategy. In the real exam, it's just as easy when you use the right strategy. So improved sanitation was the least important factor in London's growth. This one is absolutely no. They talk about it. This is a trickier question because the passage talks about London's growth. It does mention the importance of improved sanitation. So in this case, it's a false answer. This is the most difficult question. Okay. So true, false, not given. They do get more and more difficult with each one. So remember that about true, false, not given. So true, false, not given, or yes, no, not given. Yes, no, not given. Each question is more difficult than the one before. So that means that you should try to get, when you get a true, false, not given, or yes, no, not given, you should try to get at least the first 2 or 3 correct, because they do become more and more difficult with each one. So in this case, question number 5 is the most difficult question. This is briefly mentioned in the passage, even though it does not seem important for this passage. It's briefly mentioned that improved sanitation led to an increase of people in the city. So we can assume that it was an important factor. So here the answer is no for number 5. Okay. All right. Again, if you don't get number 5 correct, that's okay. You can still get an 8 or a 9. Well, not a 9, but you can get an 8 or an 8.5 on your band score if you don't get every question correct, okay? So your goal is not to get every answer correct. Your goal is to get most of them correct, okay? Most of them correct. All right, let's go to this next one. It is the summary completion. So the growth of the London Underground, and we can only choose one word from the passage. So the first line of the Underground was constructed in 1863, and over the next something decades, additional lines would increase the breadth of the system's reach. What should I do for this kind of a question? So what should I do when I look at this question? So can anybody tell me what I should be doing right away as soon as I read this? Yes, so I should look. So for this one, you have to look back at the passage, and you should look for a key word. So for summary completion, look back at the passage, look for key words or key numbers. And this is a big and. Don't forget to think about paraphrasing. Okay, so when you say look for a key word, that's great, but don't forget that in many situations, they don't use the same key word in the passage. They use a paraphrase. So you will need to think about the paraphrasing or the synonyms. Absolutely. All right, so let's do that. So here, what in this case, what is the best keyword or number to look for? What should I look for? Yeah, 1863 is probably the best one to look for. So because it's a summary completion, this will be somewhere in the beginning. And I saw it right there. So if I'm looking for the numbers, I can see that it's right here. So the first line was constructed in 1863. And then it says over the next 50 years, many more lines would be added. So the correct answer for number 6 is... What's the correct answer for number 6, guys? Over the next 5 decades. Yeah, 5 decades. So the correct answer here is 5. Okay? And yes, you can use the number 5. So don't make spelling mistakes with numbers. In the answer sheet, you can just put the number 5. Okay? So again, in the answer sheet, just be patient with me. I have a broken leg, so it's a little bit tricky to move. Whoop. All right. So just putting in 5 is good, okay? And that's what you want to put in your answer sheet. Okay, by the start of World War II, the central part of London was completely covered. Through the mid-20th century, the focus was on making the system available to those living in the something of the city. So what am I looking for in this sentence here? So through the mid-20th century, the focus was on making the system available to those living in the... Okay, Jamshid, Donald, very good, guys and girls, very good. You don't need to look at the passage for this one. You can find it, but you don't need to. You can probably figure this one out without looking at the passage because it makes sense to put the word suburbs in there. But if we're searching, we're looking for mid 20th century. What's another way to say mid 20th century? What are different ways of saying mid 20th century? What's the most simple way? 1950. That's right. Eldor says 1950. Yeah, 1950 is the middle of the 20th century. So let's see. Can we see 20th century or mid 1950 somewhere? And this will come here. So through the interwar period, mid 20th century, the focus was for the subway developers was extending the network to the suburbs of London. So the answer is in here. And as a couple of you noted very well, the answer is suburbs. Suburbs. Suburbs are the houses that are around the outside of the city. So for number 7, the correct answer is suburbs. Okay. And again, make sure you get the spelling correct. You can write all capital letters. Okay, so you can write it like that, suburbs. That way you know that you don't make any mistakes. So it's a good trick. Or all small letters. Okay. Ultubek, don't write suburbs with a big S and then small UBURBS because that will be wrong. It's not a name. So either all uppercase letters or all lowercase letters is okay, but you cannot write it as big S in your answer sheet. Okay. All right, guys. Number 8. So before 1933, there were many governing bodies. These were something companies with their own contracts and lands. So what do you think is the answer for this one? And careful with the wording. Yeah, so it's private, all small or all big, okay? Private. So all small or all big, okay? Do not write a big P and then small letters after, okay? And private is correct. Let's keep going. Conversely, management of the tube today is public, looked after by the transport. What's the word that goes in here? And if you have some good English skills, you can probably figure out what that is. Yes, authority, guys. Very good. Absolutely. If I want to search for this answer, so if I want to search for authority, what should I be looking for? So if I don't know its authority and I need to look at the passage, then what should I look for? Yeah, management is a good word. Looked after by the transport. This phrase is also good to look for. So if I go back, then I can see that here we have today the London Underground is owned and operated by the London Transport Authority. So owned and operated. Operated is managed. Okay, so it's being paraphrased. All right, let's go to the last set of questions. So the tube map is, okay, so this one is about the map. It's matching the sentence endings. And again, guys, this and girls, this material is coming from aehelp.com. So for a lot more help with the IELTS, the academic IELTS, make sure you go there and join us. Also, you can use a coupon. It's live 20. This will give you a 20% discount from our courses and videos and all that. So join today and use the coupon code LIVE20. You get a 20% discount. Also, don't forget to use Super Chat as well. All right. So the tube map is A, to see how to get anywhere in London, B, full of jobs in the financial sector, being hollowed out by tourism, colorful and intricate, popular souvenir for tourists. The map did not need to be geographically accurate. So these are the possible answers, okay? And you need to be careful here. What is a good strategy for this type of a question? So what is a good strategy for this type of question? Well, yeah, absolutely, Said. You have to see if the sentence makes sense with the options. Grammar, that's right, Nimra. The grammar is very important. So make sure the grammar matches and make sure the information matches. So for sentence completion, questions, be sure that the grammar and information match. Okay, that's a very good way to help you get the right answer. And then you have to also use critical thinking and also use critical thinking. And I'll show you with this example. So some of you said that the correct answer here for this one is D. And some of you said that the answer is E, popular souvenirs for students or for tourists. So there's a typo here. This should just be souvenir, popular souvenir for tourists. Colorful and intricate or popular souvenir for students. Which one is the right answer? Is it D or is it E? So the tube map is it D or E? Utsav says E then. So popular souvenir for students. The answer is E. It's not D. So the correct answer here is E, even though there's a typo here with souvenir. Why is it E? Why is it not D? Why is it not D? Why not D, guys? That's right, Raya. It's not intricate. So even though we have this typo here, we know that it's still the better answer because we know that in the passage it says that the tube map is not intricate. Intricate means it's complicated, it's complex. Okay? And the passage clearly says that one of the amazing aspects of the tube map is its simplicity. It's simple. It's a very simple looking map. It's not an intricate map. It's easy to read. It's a simple map. It's easy on the eyes. So it's not complicated. It's colorful, but it's not intricate. Okay? So be careful about that. And you should remember this. I bet that a lot of you, now that I told you this, I bet a lot of you remembered that, oh yeah, it said that. The passage said that it's a very simple map. It's a very simplified picture. Okay? So intricate means detailed. This word means detailed or complex. Okay? Intricate means detailed or complex. And I'm sure you guys remember that, many of you remembered that the map is not detailed. It's simple. All right. How about number 11? The map is useful because it allows a person what? So what does the map allow the person to do? To see how to get anywhere in London, full of jobs in the financial sector, being hollowed out by tourism, that the map did not need to be geographically accurate or colorful and intricate. Yeah, A. Absolutely A makes the most sense here, right? So the map is useful because it allows a person to see how to get anywhere in London. All right, number 12. Beck's key insight was, and again, this should be easy. You shouldn't have to go back to the passage. What was Beck's key insight? That is another trick that you can do. It's just like multiple choice. Try to think about the answer before you choose. So what was Beck's key insight? Well, if I remember correctly, Beck's key insight was that he realized that you don't need to have the exact same lines on the map as you do in real life, right? So Beck said that, hey, we can draw a map that doesn't look exactly like the real geography of the underground, but it's simple to read. So the correct answer for number 12 is F. Yeah, the map did not need to be geographically accurate. Good. So all of you choosing F, Mohammed, Abhig, great. All right, last question. London's core is A, to see how to get anywhere in London. No, we've already chosen that. Full of jobs in the financial sector, maybe. Being hollowed out by tourists, colorful and intricate, popular souvenir for tourists. The map did not need to be geographically accurate. What's the correct answer here? Is it C, being hollowed out by tourism? Okay, Safik says B, full of jobs in the financial sector. So some of you are saying B, some of you are saying C. Careful, guys and girls, be very careful. All of you who are choosing C, all of you choosing C, be very careful. You need to think critically. You need to think critically. Okay, so if all of you who are choosing C, I want you to think about your answer again. It's not a not given, PS Studio. This is not a right answer. Okay. So yes, the right answer is this one here. Critical thinking, guys and girls, you don't need to look at the passage to get this one correct. You just have to use excellent critical thinking. Why is it B and not C? Why is it B? Why is it not C? Somebody tell me why it's B and not C. And there's logical answer for this. Okay, so London's core is, what does the word core mean here? So what does the word core mean in this case? Core is what part of London is the core? It's the center, that's right. So core means center or downtown. Okay, so London's core is the center or the downtown of London. London around the world is known as a business city. It is the business center of the world, okay? We know this, we should know this from our history, that London is one of the major business centers in the world. So being hollowed out by tourists is not possible. Yes, there are a lot of tourists in London, but there are a lot more local people in London, especially the core of London, who use the downtown area. And all of you who have seen movies like Mission Impossible and many other movies that are filmed in London, you know that the center of London is very, very dense. It's full of finance. Okay? So critical thinking and logic here should clearly give you this answer for number 13. All right? It should be clear for you. All right? That the correct answer is full of jobs in the financial sector. Okay, guys, so those are the answers for this reading passage. That's it for today's lesson. Again, these materials are coming from our website at www.aehelp.com for academic IELTS. That's www.gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. Use this coupon LIVE20 live20 for a 20% discount. If you have some questions, yeah, ask me now. So Syed, if you have a question, go ahead, ask me now. Now's a good chance for questions. Tomorrow we're going to be focusing on task 2 writing, task 1 and task 2. So any questions, guys, before we wrap up today, guys and girls? Any questions? General IELTS lessons will start in middle of March, Fitvi. So it will start middle of March, around March 15th. We'll start teaching general IELTS questions. Yes, Arab one. So in the official IELTS, you have 3 passages like this for the reading section. The total number of questions will be 40. So this one has 13. So it means that the other 2, one will have 14, one will have 13 as well. Okay. All right. Yes, there will be a lesson tomorrow, Said, same time, or maybe actually a little bit earlier, 1 hour earlier for tomorrow's lesson, and it will be about task 2. No, definitely not Asanali. It is not enough to read just the first sentence of each paragraph. You need to read the full passage in a normal way as you would do in school or at home. You're very welcome, Prosafa. It was great teaching you. I'm happy that you're following these classes. Utsav, we are moving our office to Europe in March. So starting from March 4th, we'll definitely have earlier classes, okay? So there will be earlier and later classes for some people in other parts of the world. Okay, so we will have more classes, earlier and later classes from March 4th or March 5th. PS Studio, if you just do 2 passages, it's not a good idea. It's almost impossible to get a good score if you just do 2 passages. You have to try to get at least 80% of the questions right in all 3 passages to get a good score. Okay, so do all 3 passages. So Kunal, it's a great question. You can increase the speed of your reading by focusing on reading fluency. There are a few different techniques for that. We have them in our course at aehelp.com under the topic of power reading. So power reading is a special technique that comes from psychology. It breaks reading into 2 parts, fluency and comprehension. Focuses on fluency, focuses on comprehension, and then combines the 2. That's like a 4 or 5 hour lesson that I can't get into, but it's discussed on our website. So definitely check that out. I don't have a WhatsApp group, PS Studio, but I do live Skype speaking lessons. So if you want to contact me about live Skype speaking lessons for IELTS, then send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com, and just tell me that you're interested in Skype speaking interviews and lessons, and then we can talk about that, or we can communicate about that. Raya, high-end vocabulary. We actually have it on our website. So if you're logged into our, and you don't need to pay for all of these things. So if you go to our forum on the website, and you can do this even with the free demo account. Sorry, not the forum. You have to go to the blog. So if you go to the blog, then here you have the IELTS vocabulary for high scores. Click on read more. And then here is a whole description of what you need to do for IELTS vocabulary. And then here are all of the words. So there are 300 important words for IELTS to learn. Okay. I can maybe copy paste the URL here so you guys can take a screenshot and then check it out. But this is 300 important vocabulary. It's the most used vocabulary in academic English. And let me just erase the... sorry guys, just still suffering with this broken leg, so it's a bit hard to move around. But anyway, there's the URL for the vocabulary. So there you go. And it's free. You can access this for free. You don't have to pay for it. Okay. Um, Saini, list of heading techniques. Yeah, there's definitely a very important step-by-step technique for a list of headings. We've already done some videos on that. Um, so, um, so check out our channel and subscribe to it, and you will find a video about list of headings and how to get that. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you following these lessons, and it's been great teaching you today. I hope you have an awesome day, or you have a great sleep if it's late at night. Study hard, study lots. You will reach your goals and realize your dreams. Tomorrow, we're starting class 1 hour earlier, so it will be 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You guys are awesome too. Thank you, Tuul. Don't be shy. Join our full course. Again, that's aehelp.com. And see you guys tomorrow. Bye for now. Much love.